Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, verses 18 to 27.
ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्ताः मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसाः जघन्यगुणवृत्तिस्थाः अधो गच्छन्ति तामसाः नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारम् यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देही देहसमुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्युजरा दुःखैः विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते। अर्जुन उवाच कैर्लिङ्गैस्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचारः कथं चैतान् त्रीन् गुणानतिवर्तते। श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रकाशं च प्रवृत्तिं च मोहमेव च पाण्डव न द्वेष्टि सम्प्रवृत्तानि न निवृत्तानि काङ्क्षति। उदासीनवदासीनः गुणैर्यो न विचाल्यते गुणा वर्तन्त इत्येव योऽवतिष्ठति नेङ्गते। समदुःखसुखस्वस्थः समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः तुल्यप्रिया प्रियो धीरः तुल्यनिन्दात्मसंस्तुतिः मानापमानयोस्तुल्यः तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणातीतः स उच्यते मां च यो व्यभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते ब्रह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्याव्ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्यैकान्तिकस्य च
Na anya gunebhyah kartaram. There is no doer other than the gunas. This is the height of objectivity in life. It is what it is, right? Get used to it. It is what it is. That's that. Every one of us is made of tamas, rajas, sattva. Or if you want to put it in layman's terms, made up of good qualities and bad qualities. So when you associate with a person, associate with his good qualities. Stop running him down on his bad qualities. He has bad qualities, no doubt about it. Just like I have bad qualities. Now, what are we going to do with each other's bad qualities? If we put our good qualities together, we can reach some productive end. I will tell you what is wrong with you. You will tell me what is wrong with me. We will fight with each other. उससे क्या होना है? But I tell you what is good about you. You tell me what is good about me. And we say, look, let's put this together and see what productive thing we can do. So फिर कुछ बात होगी. So just get used to things the way they are. No, it should be this, it should be that, this is good, that is bad. Just forget all this human construct. He should behave like this. He doesn't behave like this. Full stop. It seems so self-evident. Now, what is there to explain in this? Is there anything to explain? And yet, all the time, it will go on. I'm hearing this all the time. Who should be doing what? They are not doing it. Full stop. Deepa. Isn't it important that someone tells us our negative qualities so we can correct also? Yes, it's very good if we are open to it and if we wish to correct it. Suppose you don't wish to correct. Suppose I think, Deepa, I don't like the color of your hair. Your hair should have been yellow. And I keep on telling you your hair should be yellow. What will you tell me? You mind your own business. I'll keep my hair color, the color I want or the one God gave. Why should I make it according to you? Right? So I say, no, I am being of service to you. I know yellow hair is the most beautiful hair in the world, or orange hair, or purple hair, or some such thing. And you're saying, get off my back. Right? So isn't it important that someone tells us our negative qualities so that we can correct? Now, in life, please note how many times have you told somebody their negative quality and they have said, thank you very much, I'm going to correct it.
I've told Janki ji to all the close ones
And
who are
that
in
is-
Vedanta, only the ones who are in Vedanta, not others, not even my siblings.
Yeah, right. So you have to know how many people have said to you, thank you, I will now correct it and actually correct it. Those people are available for correction. But But the thought itself that I know what is correct for you, that thought itself is ego. Because I don't know your full story. Now I can say, no, I think Deepa will look better with yellow hair or purple hair or whatever, green hair, whatever color I want. But Deepa knows what is happening in her life and whether that is going to fit over there or not. And why is it, if it's so self evident that your hair should be yellow, then why are you not seeing it? Right? So it's a dangerous path to tread. As a sadhak, it's a dangerous path to tread to tell others. But if someone tells us, then we should listen carefully as a sadhak.
Even though initially I may not like, but when I think that, I always say, yeah, that's a good thing that she's told me or whatever.
Right. So even for you, who is a
Yeah,
sadhak,
yeah.
who wants to hear, has to
Yeah.
put an effort. So nobody else is doing
Yeah.
this.
Correct.
So leave them alone. Let's enjoy their good qualities. Bharat, isn't a spouse sent on the planet to say that? Bharat, see, if you have to be a sadhak, you better get married. Otherwise, who will tell you? If Deepraj tells you, you'll punch him one. He will get so frightened, he will not talk to you. You know, with your muscles and all, who can tell you anything? So you please get one so that somebody is there to tell you. Yes, Deepraj, zero. How many people in our lives have told us? You try telling your family members what is wrong with them and see what their reaction is to that. And make a proper list, make a PPT, make a pretty list, and say, look, I'm going to sit down today and tell you all the things wrong with you. See what happens. Experiment. There's nothing like experimentation. Get used. This is the world you live in. Beyond this world, there is a transcendental reality, and our job in life is to deal with that. We don't have any other job here. They've got nothing else to do. We only undertake those activities that will take us to that trip. Everything else is just a waste of time. You're free to undertake all these other extracurricular activities, but it's just a waste of time. Anything you do other than trying to realize the self is just a waste of time. Why is it a waste of time? Because you do all these hundreds of various things और फिर घूम फिर के कहाँ आना है, यही आना है. तो पहले से ही जाओ ना in the right direction. There is no other way to do this. You know, now we are all into this marketing. As an institution, we are into marketing. We have to get, without visibility, there's no fund, so we have to visit, we are all into marketing. So big question in front of us. What do we stand for? What do we stand for? If you're a Vedantan, you can stand for only one thing. We as an institution. As an institution means what? All of us put together, right? We only stand here for self-development. There's nothing else that we are here for. And if that is what we're here for, what do we need to do for that? We need to understand the facts of life. And this is what these books tell us, just the facts of life. Everybody is made up of tamas, rajas, sattva. So boring it sounds, right? Nobody likes Vedanta, it's so boring. Every human being is made up of tamas, rajas, sattva. Okay, next point. It doesn't even occur to us कि कितनी बड़ी बात बोली हुई है इसमें. It just sounds like, okay, I know that. If I ask you, everybody is made up of how many gunas? Everybody will answer the question, 3 gunas. Then when you meet somebody's tamas, you'll say, how can he behave like that? He was supposed to be made of tamas. You met his tamas. Now you're surprised you met tamas there. We stand for self-development. To develop ourselves, we need to know the facts of life. And that's what we study. And that's what we'd like everybody to know. Because when we know the facts of life, we develop ourselves. And we are really our biggest resource. Every individual for themselves is their biggest resource. So if this resource is developed, obviously everything else is developed. And as humanity or as the planet, we are the highest resource. So if this resource is developed, everything is developed. Why is it so difficult to get this? And yet we have to now do marketing, we have to explain to people. If you don't get it, will you get it with this explanation? I don't know. Simple fact. Everyone is made up of, now if you say body, mind, and intellect, I don't know.
Trigunas.
Huh? Made up of?
Trigunas.
Three gunas.
Trigunas.
Three gunas. Thank God you didn't say 3 states of consciousness. Body, mind, intellect. Okay? Where are you all hitting? On the point. Every one of us is made up of tamas, rajas, sattva. That means something in me will be tamasic. Something in me will be rajasic. Something in me will be sattvic. Let us put our sattva element together and achieve something great in this world. The tamas and rajas will sort themselves out. Don't worry about it. Focus on the sattvic element. Don't feed the others. If you don't feed the others, how can they grow? Focus on the sattvic. Now, what is the sattvic element? The fact that we can consider, that we can conceive that there is something beyond all of this. And that kind of expansion of our intellect is what expands everything over here. You even realize that by all accounts, India was a highly developed civilization. So they tell us, I mean, there's no way to prove this, except, of course, if you look at the Sanskrit language, then you can't have a very backward civilization having a language with the precision of Sanskrit. So there are indications to us that it was a developed thing. Right? They had medicine and astronomy and so many things they had. The civilization itself was dedicated to what? You remember what it was dedicated to? What was the highest thing in the civilization according to the civilization? What was that highest knowledge or highest thing, whatever, what was the most respected thing of the ancient Indian civilization?
Research on
Vedanta.
life and living.
Vedanta.
Vedas. And what is the point of the Vedas? Vedanta. They studied that. And the result is that astronomy was great, then mathematics. I don't know, Deepraj, if you've studied the mathematics of that time, and it's amazing, right? They did this all mentally. It's like strange how many of these, and they put it into mantras. Very interesting. I haven't studied all this, but it's very interesting how they did it. You imagine remembering formulas. How horrible is that? So they would put it into a mantra. Now, mantra is easier to remember. Like a mnemonic aid. And these mnemonic aids were very interesting because all the mantras that gave the formulas, you know what? The meaning of the mantras was, not the formula. The meaning of the mantra was always praise of the Lord. It was amazing, right? It's a fantastic thing. You read the mantras, they're all praising the Lord. And then when you start working it out mathematically, this is actually got a mathematical formula in it. Now, I haven't studied all this, so don't ask me any further questions, but just a little smattering here and there. It's incredible that if you read the mantra, it is all glories of the Lord. And if you put it into mathematics, it is a formula. So we assume it was a very highly developed civilization. The highest in that civilization was the Vedas, because, that was supposed to be the crowning glory of everything. And that's what every educated person studied. And the result was this flourishing civilization. So we must learn from that, that if I want my personality to flourish, let me learn this carefully. Not find out who said what and this and that and 100 opinions on 100 subjects, but study one subject fully till I understand, till I become it. And what does that mean? That means I can look at the world and understand this whole thing is nothing but a play of the three gunas. And beyond this world, there is the self. Should I become a person like this? What kind of person would I be? How would I behave? How would I act? How would I think? This is something always interesting. That's what Arjuna is going to ask. So, verse 19 told us that when the seer perceives no agent other than the gunas and knows the higher beyond the gunas, he attains my being.
हेलो
Such a person attains the highest.
हाँ हाँ बोला है मैंने
Sorry,
बोला है
किसको क्या बोला है?
ये किसको बोला है?
Okay. Please, can you all pay attention in class? And if you can't pay attention in class, then at least keep yourself muted. One of the two do. Even for 1 hour to keep your mind on the subject is so tough. Imagine doing it 24 hours. That's why I'm telling you all hundreds of times, nobody listens. Please put on your videos. Please put on your videos. Why? So that you will learn the art of concentration. Nobody wants to do that. Pehle to the first problem is, have you dressed for class or not dressed for class? Then who all are in the room? Then are you in a home or are you in a car? How many problems there are in this world? Thank you for all this. It's the easiest way of making sure that your mind stays here. Because it is peer pressure. Because sab log dekhenge. So use the tamas in you or the rajas in you to achieve sattva. You can do that. We are interested in reputation. Then look for a reputation. Use that desire to study Vedanta. You're interested in money. Use that desire to study Vedanta. You use all your tamas and rajas for the purpose of the higher. Okay, so let's go to verse 20. Gunanetanatityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto mrutamashnute gunanetanatityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan Janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto mrutamashnute. Having crossed over these three gunas, gunan, etan, gunan, atitya. Atitya is the gerund that says having done something, having crossed over. Etan, trin, gunan, atitya. These three gunas having crossed. Dehi, deha samudbhavan. The dehi means the indweller, what is existing in the body. Janma mrityu jara dukkaihi. Janma birth, mrityu death, jara old age, dukkaihi. The pain that arises from birth, death, and old age. Vimukta, freed. So two aspects of this. You're freed from the lower and you enjoy the higher. You're freed from the pain of Janma, Mrityu, Jara. Jara is old age. And Amrutam, immortality, Ashnati. So you leave the lower and you leave the pain of the lower and you enjoy the joy of the higher. Just telling us the consequence of being objective. If you are objective in life, what happens? You are not pained by anything and you're enjoying. Pretty self-evident, right? Like, what else will happen? Why are we pained by the lower? Why are we pained by old age? Why does old age or birth or death pain us? What's the problem with it? Our attachment to the body, our body and somebody else's. Otherwise, why is there pain? If somebody grows old, do you feel unhappy? Okay, somebody in Ethiopia grows old, mera na lena na dena. But if this body grows old, or the body of a near and dear one grows old, now I'm pain. So what is the pain? It's nothing but attachment. What is the attachment? It's an indiscriminate flow of thoughts. When you lose your discrimination, you're pained by these things. If you have discrimination, what is there to be pained? What were you expecting will happen? As our age goes up, there are only two possibilities. Either you die or you live. Only two possibilities, right? If you die, you're dead well. And if you live, then you are
Sick.
huh?
Old.
You're old. So what do you think is going to happen? Only two. Either you're going to die young or you're going to be old. Now you can choose which of these two you want, but these are the only two possibilities. For instance, as long as you're on planet Earth, you have only two possibilities. You'll either be in daytime or you will be at night. There are only these two possibilities. So if you don't want day and night, you should leave this planet. But as long as you're here, you have only these two possibilities. Now, every time it's day, you say, yay, it's day, let's enjoy. And every time it's night, you say, boo, boo, it's night, let us cry. Pagal log hai kya? This will go on and on and on. Similarly, if you cross the age of, what should I say, 25? If you cross the age of 25, then you have two possibilities. Either you will continue crossing 35, 45, 55, 65, or you won't. If you do, then you get old age. If you don't, then you're dead. So, what is discrimination? A simple, basic discrimination. Not very complicated. No, that's a nice thing about Vedanta. Not very complicated at all. So, having crossed over these three gunas, the dweller in the body is completely freed from birth, death, old age, and pain arising from the body and attains immortality. So now, can you tell me on a relative level, how would you explain this? Relative. This you understand, right? It's the highest state. This is for self-realization. Can you give me examples at a relative level?
For example, you get a paper cut.
Hmm.
It's a small wound. You don't really think about it. It's like it is there. It will go in 1 week.
You have to give us two, no?
Oh, that old age and the other thing.
No, no, no. You have to say you've released from pain and you're enjoying something. Okay, I'll give you the first
Having
one.
reached adulthood, you free from the pressures of teenagehood.
Very good. When you reach teenagehood, you are freed from childhood, the pain of childhood. You know what is the pain of childhood? You people have forgotten the pain of childhood. The children, bichare, they're crying so much. ये मेरा टॉय टूट गया, मेरा फ्रेंड ने कट्टी किया. They're crying so much. What something happened. मेरे face पे pimple आ गया. Now you've forgotten all this. All that you are also crying. Now you're enjoying, I think, adulthood and have forgotten the pain of childhood. Right? Similarly, the moment you become objective to your spouse's idiosyncrasies, it is no longer paining you and you're enjoying a harmonious relationship. And not only harmonious relationship, actually, it is funny when you start seeing the faults of others objectively. It's just humor. You actually enjoy it. You know exactly what people will say, do, behave, and when they do like that, it's really funny. Yeah, Deepraj?
But isn't it that when we grow up from children to adult, we are enjoying the children's life and not the adult life? Because the adult life is still full of problems.
Uh, Life is full of problems is different, but you have got, well, actually, you know, something, what you're saying is true, but the thing is, the quality of joy of adult life is better than the quality of joy of children's life because children are very superficial. Like, even if they cry, then it's a 5 minutes, it's done. So the quality is still better. Now, if you're genuinely an adult, that means you're an objective person. That means what are you suffering for? But now most of us are not really becoming adults. That's why the example falls. Most people are somewhere caught between teenage and adulthood. They don't seem to step into adulthood at all. In the most basic things, they don't seem to step into adulthood. Achha, it's simple, right? Things are what they are. Simple. So as an adult, you have to understand that.
But nowadays, children are not allowed to be children. So, they grow up, with all these things. And that's why it might be a reason why it's so difficult to transition.
Well, nobody can stop you from being a child because you are a child. People may stop you from enjoying your childhood. I mean, for the child being happy and child, but child is child. Can't be stopped from that. But yeah, I mean, some cases that does happen, but mostly, I mean, there are some horrible cases, of course, but mostly children are over pampered rather than not allowed to enjoy. Okay. Ajay Kasotia. If intellect is developed, enveloped by gunas, how can it remain really objective? Then filtering process too becomes tainted, isn't it? Yes, it is. If the intellect is enveloped by gunas, means what? The sattva in you is not being allowed to function because of the presence of tamas and rajas. That's how the intellect is enveloped by the gunas. Then filtering process too becomes tainted. That's correct. So you will see things incorrectly. However, that's correct. So much, so far, so good. But that doesn't mean we're in a bad condition. Because wherever we are, however we are, whatever intellect which is available to us if we use it, that enveloping reduces a little, that darkness reduces a little. So this English saying is, the way to more light is the faithful use of what you have. So whatever intellect is available, whatever you can see, do that. And as you do that, more and more will open up to our vision. So never is it a lost hope, because the way your question is, it sounds almost like it's a lost hope. Now we don't have sattva. Rajas and tamas have enveloped us. The intellect itself is not telling us the right thing. Seems quite sad, right? But your intellect will tell you. Your intellect means anybody's intellect will tell them what is right for that level. So they have to do that. Like if you're in third standard, your intellect will tell you what's right for third standard. If you're in 10th standard, your intellect will tell you what's right for 10th standard. If you're in PhD, then your intellect will tell you what's right for PhD. So you have to just do what your intellect says, not jump ahead. Is that okay? All right. So,
Janki-ji, what is the usage of the word dweller referring to?
dweller refers to the individuality. But it's a little complicated. You can take dweller to mean the self. If you take dweller to mean the self, then the problem is with the word in the body. If you take the dweller to mean the individuality, then the problem is with the completely freed from birth, death. The individuality will never be freed. So whichever one you take, there's a problem with it. So the only way to resolve this problem is to understand that the individuality is nothing but the self, but with some kind of blockage.
Janki, we can say embodied, no? Embodied.
Yeah, embodied is a synonym for indweller. But Bharat's question is, who is the embodied? Is it the self or is it the individuality? Both would be right because both have a problem. But once you understand, you remember that example we always use about a bulb covered in a red light. Yellow light, but what you're seeing is red light, right? Because there's a red paper on it. So now you're seeing red light. So somebody asks you, where is the yellow light? You have no option but to show the red light because that's where it is. But then you say, but that's not yellow, that's red. That's also correct. That individuality is nothing but the self, right? But with a barrier of some sort. Does that help?
Yeah, a little confusing, but yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's very difficult for us to grab hold of the idea that I am the self. So who is the indweller? I. So if I say I, then who is the I? Individuality or self? So individuality and self is the same thing because self is manifesting as the individual. So once you get that little, because such a borderline thing, that's why it becomes confusing. I hope everyone is clear about that, or at least somewhat clear on that.
No, in this case, the dweller should be only individuality, no, in this verse, because otherwise, how can self be freed from birth, death, and
How can individuality be free? As long as there's an individuality, you'll never be free.
no? That is why the first part says, having crossed over these gunas, then you
Dweller in the
freed of
body.
that.
Yeah, so dweller in the body, if you take it as the self, you have all sorts of, you can take it as both are okay. You can take both. But whichever one you take, you'll have a problem with. So you take it as the self. The dweller is the self, which is correct. There's nothing wrong in that. Is completely freed. All of this is a difficult thing. Having crossed over the three gunas, is the self going to cross the three gunas? Is the self going to get free?
No.
Is the self going to attain immortality?
No.
So there's a problem with each one. Suppose take it as the indweller, as the individual self. All right. Then you say, okay, individual self crossed over. The dweller is completely freed. Is the individuality now completely freed? No, because these two are mutually exclusive. Both ways you have a problem. So the only way out of it is to recognize that the individual self and the self is one. That's why they keep saying Atman and Brahman are one.
But in this, let's say if I substitute the dweller with Kalyan, if I cross over all the three gunas, then I'm completely freed of birth, death, old age.
But will Kalyan never cross over the three gunas?
That's what is the state this verse is supposed to describe, no?
That's the problem with it. Because you're talking of that transition point, you can't say it's the individual and you can't say it's the self. So you say any is okay. Who is transitioning? The individual cannot transition, and the self doesn't need to transition.
Then what is this verse talking about?
It's talking about the transition. So that's why the only way to resolve it is to understand that Kalyan is the self. To which your argument will be, but Kalyan is obviously not the self. To which comes an example of the bulb covered by the red cover. That if there was a bulb covered with a red cellophane paper, and someone were to ask you, where is the yellow light? You will point to the redness around and say, that's the yellow light. But then the person will argue and say, but that's not red, that's not yellow, it's red. But now what are you going to say? That is the yellow light.
Okay.
That is a little complicated. That transition point is always...
Janki ji, Janki ji, just to take Kalyan's example, if I was to understand as follows, Kalyan having crossed over these three gunas, the moment he crosses over three gunas, he is not Kalyan anymore. He is the self, right? The self in Kalyan's body is completely freed from birth.
But it was always freed from birth. There was no question of their freeing the self, right?
Yeah, he is completely freed from birth. So, which means then Kalyan is freed from birth.
No, but Kalyan can never be freed from birth. The individual can never be.
So the dweller cannot be.
Yeah, that is the transition. That is the problem here.
Kalyan cannot be, dweller cannot be. Then what's Krishna talking about here?
That's why the only way to get it is that example of the bulb. When you're looking at the red light, right? And someone says, there's a bulb covered with red cellophane paper and there's red light. Now someone's saying, where is the yellow light? You will point to the red light. And they'll say, no, it's not. It's absolutely wrong what you're saying because can't you see it's red? But that comprehension that red light actually has that yellow light in it. So it is the yellow light. So Kalyan is the self. Arun is the self. Bhavna is the self. And yet, neither Bhavna, nor Kalyan, nor Arun are the self. Because it is the self enveloped in something. Don't pull your hair deep, Raj. It's okay. It will get sorted one day.
It's okay. Yeah, I think something for all of us to study in the morning for our morning reflection, food for
Yes.
thought. But I think that transition point is something we need to reflect more on.
Yeah.
That this is the transition point he's talking about. So that's the dimension.
Yeah. Except that transition is just another word. There is no transition for the self, and neither is it there for the body, mind, intellect.
But we need words to, the only
Yes.
way we can understand is through words only, no?
Yes. So that's
So-
that's why every time you question it, then you find no, none of this works. That's why the only method sometimes is comparison.
True.
Sorry, for whatever it's worth. That's how it is. मैं क्या करूँ?
Janki ji, is the same confusion of that rope and that the same, right? That whole confusion of the rope not being the snake.
I hope that's not confusing, but yes.
No, it was really confusing in that chapters. Which chapter was it where they spoke very extensively about the rope is a snake and not a snake? That it's just pretty much in that space, right?
Yeah. So if you look at the rope, if you look at the snake and you say, what is it? It's the rope. But it's clearly not a rope, it's clearly a snake. So then if you say the one day the snake will go and the rope will come, that's not correct because the rope is always there. Or you say the snake becomes the rope, that's also not correct because the rope never became a snake. So whichever way you put it, it doesn't encompass the idea. Whatever, I mean, you can argue any of these positions. That's the point. But you have to understand that there is a rope. You are seeing it as a snake. And once you're not seeing it as a snake, then things just come back to normal for what it's worth. But this point is he's just making a fairly, he's not, I mean, unless you start poking into that word in dweller, the word by itself is not very difficult in the sense that when you're able to look beyond the three gunas, you will be freed from the pain that looking at it gives you. If you don't see the snake, you'll be freed of the fear of the snake.
Yeah, so Janki ji, for for us at a relative level to understand, for Arjuna to understand, is that the more we identify with self, the more we work towards increasing sattva and going beyond sattva, try to go beyond sattva, lesser is the pain of old age and body pain, etc., etc.
Yes, but
So
that
for
is
us,
for that. Yes, that is for us means that is for a higher level sadhak who is
yeah,
able to identify with the self. For
yeah, to
those
the
who are,
extent,
yeah,
he identifies
yeah,
with self, lesser is the.
right. So that is for the sannyasis. Now, if it's for the yogis, then they will have to find something else that they can see more than those gunas. For
Which is the higher goal. Yeah.
They have to find something like, okay, my husband is a very irritating person because he, I don't know, what shall I give? Give me something. I'm trying to think of what my husband irritates me with, but at the moment I can't think of anything. So
Doesn't give me the TV remote.
No, I just.
huh? He doesn't give me the TV remote. Very
No,
good.
I'll just call Rita. She'll tell you.
Yeah, we need these people in classes. Nice, good examples we'll get. So, okay, he doesn't give me the TV remote. Right? Now, he doesn't give me the TV remote, he's irritating me. Now what? He's very selfish, he's very self-centered, he is this, he is that, is my normal way of looking at it. Now I look at it like this. My husband doesn't give me the TV remote. Is this worth creating disharmony in the house? If I want the TV remote,
You are not making tea yourself.
yes,
No, you are in right home.
I am not making tea for him because he's making tea for me means it can't be that he makes for me and I make for him, right? It means I'm not making tea for him. So I have to understand the balance of things instead of trying to and why am I understanding the balance? Because I've kept harmony in the relationship as a higher way of looking at this. So relatively, that's what happens. Or if I want to achieve a goal and I'm in office, so I have my office colleagues who are very stupid and very irritating. But if I'm in, say, marketing, they are in accounts, then marketing and accounts always have a problem with each other because marketing is always going, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. And accounts are like, hold on, is all the paperwork done? So there's always a tussle. But then when they both realize that both elements are required for this organization to move forward, then they move forward as an organization. So the irritating things of my spouse or of my workmates or of anybody else are usually the very things that I require for my life to be going well. Like if I'm a go-getter and my spouse is a homemaker, then I require this other talent, right? Otherwise, me go-getting and then who's looking after the home? So when you start seeing it in full perspective, the relativeness of this knowledge comes to us. And attains immortality, as you know, means, please don't do that.
Self-realized.
Sorry? What does attains immortality means?
And reaches the self.
Okay, at the absolute level, at the relative level.
Free from the pain of the changes.
One, freed of any affectation by change. Mortality means death. Death means birth. Immortality means no birth, no death. That means what? Means change. No change. Because birth and death are change. I didn't go into all this because, as I can see today, all our old students, don't see anyone new. So for those who are new, immortality means at the relative level means unaffected by change. Mortality means change. Why? Because mortality means death. Death implies birth, and between birth and death, change keeps taking place. If you take a stick and you break it in half, it is the death of the one stick and the birth of the two sticks. And between this birth and death, change takes place. So no mortality means no death. Okay, let's do verse 21. Arjuna Uvacha कैर्लिङ्गैः स्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचार कथं चैतान् त्रिगुणानतिवर्तते अर्जुन उवाच कैर्लिङ्गैः स्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचार कथं चैतान् त्रिगुणानतिवर्तते. Arjuna Uvacha. Now he's heard this. He says, what a person who has crossed three gunas atitan, gone beyond the three gunas. Atita means going beyond. So you've heard this famous thing, right? Guna atita. Guna atita means gone beyond the gunas. So this person who has crossed over Prabhu, Prabhu means O Lord, Kim Achara, how does he behave? Katham cha etan tri gunan ativartate. How did he go beyond the three gunas? Same question you might also have, na? Okay, I understand that I should go beyond the three gunas, but how should I do that? That's what he's asking. And how do I know I've done that? What marks has he? Lingaihi. By what marks, by what signs, by what indications would I know that someone has crossed over the three gunas? Do you remember? Does this question, what marks has he who has crossed over these three gunas, O Lord? Does this remind you of anything?
Yes,
Chapter
Chan.
3 question, right? Before
Chapter
Sita
3,
Prajna.
na? Not chapter 3. But you're close.
Sorry, chapter 2 is it?
Chapter 2. Same question again. Our friend Arjuna, since he represents us, repeats his questions over and over and over again. Same question. How many times is he going to ask? What are the marks of a self-realized person? So many times he's asking the same question. He's not even getting it. Just look at the man standing in front of you, you will get it. That also he doesn't get. He said, what is his marks? What is it? How does he behave? How does he walk? How does he talk? All of this he keeps asking. So what marks has he who has crossed? Not that we're being unsympathetic to poor Arjuna. He represents the sadhak. And the sadhak finds it very difficult to wrap his head around these thoughts. So over and over again, they ask the same question, which you will have seen in class also. And some people have a particular, what should I say, affinity to a particular question. Every little while, that same question will come up. Sometimes they recognize it and they say, I know I've asked this before. And I like to say that I know you will ask it again also. But it's go on and on, same question. So this is not the sadhak's fault always, because the knowledge is so volatile. You feel like you've got it, and then suddenly it's not there anymore. It's like, okay, oh, yesterday I thought I'd understood this. Now what happened today? You just sort of disappear. Where did it go? That's why it's very important to write it down. Write down your points, because between today and tomorrow morning study, you will not remember what you heard today. It's so subtle, the knowledge, that it's difficult to sort of grasp it, hold on to it. That's why the repetition, parayan, they say, go on repeating. Repeating, you'll say, no, we don't repeat. We do reflection. You can't do reflection until you've done repetition. Repetition is step 1. Then you go to reflection. Otherwise, you're reflecting on things that nobody ever said. Have you not noticed in class? People will say, but you said. And I say, no, don't say that. Nobody said that. Why are you thinking about it? The text has not said this. So first stage, repetition. For repetition, you need to write it down, because then you know that you have written it down at least correctly. Then comes reflection. Now nobody writes anything down. हम सोच रहे हैं भाई, किस चीज का सोच रहे हैं? टेक्स्ट नहीं है, नोट्स नहीं है, सोच रहे हैं तो सोचो, फिर मैं क्या करूं? There is no, we have to learn how to be a learner. First, that is step one. That's why we did, no? In some class, we did that. How do we become better learners of the subject? Until we are able to upgrade our own learning ability, there's no hope in this. Because you can be explained till doomsday, but you need to know how to learn it. So how do you learn it? Remember, first after class, spend 5 minutes. In class, you are not spending time over it. What can I say 5 minutes later? 5 minutes, sit down and just, mentally go through the flow of thought and the whatever little notes you want to write, so that some consolidation takes place. Next morning, study it properly again. Go over it maybe 1, 2, 3 sessions, as much as the time it takes. Ideally, for every class you attend, how many sessions of study should you do? That's right. For every class, because the proportion is 20% taking in information, 80% reflecting. You're right, 4 times. Means you spend 1 hour listening. You have 4 study sessions based on it. Now, you all are lucky, because 90% you all did not listen. So you heard for 10 minutes. So now you can have tomorrow morning 40 minutes study session on it. Whatever it is, yaar, karo to sahi. Listen for 10 minutes and then do 40 minutes. Itna to karo. Kuch bhi karo. Jo karna hai karo, par kar lo. Aditi, we have a fantastic tool, the YouTube videos to write down the session done. Yeah. क्लास में कोई सुनता नहीं है, YouTube कौन जाके सुनने वाला है? Yes, okay. But you're listening in class also. So anyway, all the best. But remember that unless you put in something, you won't get anything. You have to put in your effort if you wish this knowledge to come to. Okay.